Hello, and welcome back to the Detours in Music podcast. My name is Laura Rupel, and this is Season 2, Episode 19, an interview with Justin Bannon, an employee at RDG Woodwinds Incorporated. I hope you enjoy.
I'm Justin Bannon, and I work at RDG Woodwinds Incorporated in Pasadena, California. And I am an operations manager there now. And yeah, it's been 5 years now that I've started working there. So that's where I am.
Yay, and I know you from you representing RDG at John Mack Oboe Camps in the summer.
Yes, that's right. And that was actually my first introduction into RDG Woodwinds, was actually working at the store there at the John Mack Oboe Camp.
Wow, okay. I'm excited to get more into that later. Can you talk about your start in music?
Absolutely. I always have to start back with my family. I come from a big family, I would say. I have about 20 or something cousins. And I have 4 siblings. So it makes a total of 5 with us, and I'm the 4th one. And we've always done music. My parents have always played guitar, so that's something we grew up with and always remember listening to them play. And I think art just kind of came naturally to us, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And for my immediate family, not only just like drawing and painting and stuff, but music was kind of a big deal. So we all kind of played band instruments, though. We didn't really play guitar as a full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started playing music, I started off on trumpet, actually, in the 4th grade. It was like my 3rd choice of an instrument. I wanted to play clarinet first because my sister played it. Then I wanted to play flute because my other sister played that. And then it was trumpet, and they're like, well, there's too many flutes and clarinets, so trumpet it. So I just kind of got used to that. I thought it was a pretty neat instrument, but once I got to high school, I just started to realize that most of my playing wasn't good enough to get first, and I was like, I guess, competitive enough with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to switch something. In 10th grade, we were going to a new school.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go to a graduating class of like 100 people, and it was a K through 12 school all together. So we merged with another school district, got this big school. So everything was kind of new. So I was like, let's try something new. And I listened to the oboe and wind ensemble, and I was like, that sounds pretty cool. So I asked my friend who was playing the oboe,
Mm-hmm.
and she let me borrow it anytime she didn't need it, which was, all the time. And I practiced for like at least 4 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I wish I still had that dedication right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would just go home and play oboe just for like hours. And that was the start of the school year in 2003 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started taking oboe lessons the next year. And I'm from New York, so we have our state competitions where you go and play a solo piece.
Mm-hmm.
And there one out of 6 for NYSSMA, and I went on oboe like level 4, and I was just like, let's go hard, let's just go like almost close to the top. And I did really well. And then I got into all county with that, and there was just more opportunities that started to pop up, and I really loved it. And I just said, hey, let's see if we can make a life out of this. And I enjoy music and I enjoy teaching, so that's what I ended up doing.
When you realized you wanted to go into music in college, what was that transition like for you?
I was super excited to think about the fact that I didn't have to do factory work kind of, thought process. I was like, I get to like actually go do creative things, and that's exciting. My music teachers went to SUNY Fredonia in Western New York. It's about an hour south of Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there for music ed, and I absolutely loved every single year of it there. I learned so much about the oboe. I was playing on like a $500 eBay oboe like all throughout high school.
Yeah.
And I remember my teacher just kind of saying, well, now it's time to get a real one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I bought a used wood one, and that was my introduction. And it was really, really cool to think in hindsight now, like my my playability throughout college, I started off in the lowest band. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was like first oboe, ACB, like all college band. Even the
Mm-hmm.
community is a part of it, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then like each semester I just progressed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was something that I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where actually I met Dana Sundek, because she would actually come as like a guest teacher
Mm-hmm.
every so often. So that's when I got to meet her, and that's who I studied with in grad school.
Yeah. Is there something that you struggled with oboe and studying? Some people that's reeds. Maybe for you it was, I mean, you started oboe a little bit later, I would say. So I'm just curious.
Everything. I mean, trumpet has three valves, you know, and you do things with your embouchure that is kind of crazy. You're like, you're supposed to be able to like buzz a scale without a
Mm-hmm.
mouthpiece type of thing, you know. And then oboe, you have this thing that you have to create on top of having to understand how to play on it, and then that's relationship to the instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say the hardest thing was just trying to learn as quickly as I needed to get to where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And these types of things are slow moving skills. They're not something that's going to be overnight, even a year. You
Mm-hmm.
know, these are constantly things that you're working towards to get to where you want to be and then past that.
Mm-hmm.
So one was like obviously the fingering thing and doing the best with that. So dexterity for left and right hand was something I needed to get used to. The reed was something that it wasn't always the easiest thing, to be honest, but the best thing that I got out of it was that I always like doing things with my hands. So
Okay.
like I like tinkering and take things apart, I'll put it back together. I like that concept. So reeds are that in a
Mm-hmm.
very artistic way, but then on a very physics way. Like you have to understand the whole and biology, like because of
Mm-hmm.
that plant, you know, we have to understand what the plant is, to what we're doing to it, to what we want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the reads a lot.
Yeah. When you mentioned, practicing for the goal that you have in mind, I'm curious if when you started school, like, was your goal to work at a double reed shop? And then just kind of that thought process. I'm curious.
Yeah, I actually talk about it a lot. I mean, I do like to be open with a lot of my friends and coworkers too. So I like to bring up my past and trying to be pretty proud of myself to be where I am, because
Yeah.
everyone's goal is to try to find happiness, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to feel somewhat content in a way with the way your life is going and the things that you've been working towards, and you want to get to a point where like you can kind of take a breath and be like, okay, you got to a great checkpoint. um I didn't think I was going to work in a shop. No.
Mm-hmm.
Music ed was always my thing. I always thought I was going to become a teacher. I was going to bring my band to competitions and teach lessons all day long, and then teach band. And like I knew so much about band repertoire, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what I really thought. So when I was considering at the end of my undergrad what I wanted to do for my master's, because this was now 2010, and there was a big drop in careers for people, and
Mm-hmm.
jobs were just really scarce. So a lot of us kind of just decided to go to do our masters, continue your education while you can, and you've got this fresh in your mind. So that's what I did. I thought that maybe I would do conducting. So I was in contact with my conducting teacher, Paula Holcomb, at SUNY Fredonia for a little bit to talk about conducting. And I thoroughly enjoyed it and thought maybe I should do this as my master's. But then at the same time, my teacher, Dr. Sarah Hamilton and Mark Dubois, they were helpful in the thought process of also thinking that like I'm capable of also performing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can also go to school for performance if you wanted to. So I got to a point where I considered both of them a lot and thought, Dana Sunda came a couple times, and
Mm-hmm.
she's talked about the opportunity of doing a master's at her school, and that's only a couple hours away from here in Ohio. And I've been to Ohio the first year I went to Fredonia, because I went to the John Mack Memorial concert my freshman year.
Wow.
I mean that's actually a
That's
pretty
wild.
big thing in my life too. Like I didn't know this man, this
Mm-hmm.
like intense pedagogue type of person, like everybody knew him.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea who this man was, and I'm now going to a memorial concert, and I'm like, sure, why not? Like my studio is like a dozen young women and then myself, so I'm like, let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we hopped in a car, we went to it, and that was the first time I heard a whole stage worth of oboes and English horns playing together.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, like my mouth was just open. I didn't realize that the oboe one could sound that good, like at all.
Yeah.
And the same with like the English horn. I was like, that is amazing. I went out of there like thinking I'm gonna arrange music for things like this, and I did that for a long time in my life. I loved arranging music, and Dana Sundert always gets mad at me about not getting them to her, but they'll get there some point. But yeah, I think that's I decided to go with her because I'm like, let's perform. I really like that. I really like what Ohio had to show me already. So, and she's a student of John Max. Let's do that. So I went for performance, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I started taking auditions too. I was like, let's see if I can get into orchestras or this and this and that. And then that process was not really my jam. I wasn't really into the audition life. But I did thoroughly enjoy playing. And people knew that too when they watch. So it's a good thing to like have people be like, yeah, but you really do enjoy, so don't not do it. Just continue to do it. So I always play with community groups, so that I always keep my playing going. And then at a point when I was in grad school, I started going to the John Mack Oboe Camp. And so I never really had money to play around with like a lot of college students. So I did a work study. So I worked in the store with my now boss, and we worked really well together. And so Nancy just kind of said to me, this is pretty easy for you, and I have a job out in California. If you ever do want to work with me, let me know. So I thought about it, and LA is expensive, but New York is also expensive. And so, 5 years or so, maybe 4 or 5 years go past that. And she actually just independently hired me to work the store because it was easier to send me from Long Island to North Carolina than it was for her to go from California to North Carolina. So she just asked me, hey, can you work this for me? So I would, leave for my job for a week and then go down there for a week and do that.
Yeah.
And so I did that for like a handful of years for her. And she kept asking if it would be okay to fly me out there one time and see if I would enjoy working there and enjoy life.
Yeah.
So that was the year after I came back from China, where I was working for 10 months. And I came back and was trying to find a job in teaching again. But then, you know what? I just said, let's pack up my car and drive to California.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like where it started. And that was the year that I turned 30. So it was like the year I turned 30 was the year I moved to California. And I've been here ever since, like 5 years now.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, that's gotta feel amazing to kind of be really sought after by something, even if you're like, like, yeah, it's whatever,
Yeah, it's so funny when it's again the hindsight thing. Like you look back, and I understood that somebody saw my talent, but then there was a lot of other people out there that saw my talent as well in the teaching world. But administrative wise, they never really hired me, and so I took so many job interviews, and it just got to a point where I said, why am I trying to bust down these doors that are closed when somebody has a window open for me, like right here, and you can just climb right up that one and see what it's like. And I really do give a lot to Nancy Huang to see that in me and to be persistent about it, and to have her little saying now that she found me in the woods. Type of
Pretty
thing.
much.
She really did. She found me on top of a mountain and said, yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah. You mentioned China?
Oh, I did, yes. That came around at the part of my life where teaching didn't really seem to be getting anywhere with me. I was doing a lot of leave replacements. and I was working at multiple schools, the after programs, and really not getting anywhere, and it was really starting to bum me out. And people, and these are multiple people coming up to me saying, "You're young, you're
Mm-hmm.
not committed to anyone, you don't have anything tying you down here. This is a great opportunity for you to explore the world and
Mm-hmm.
see, if you can do anything." And my best friend actually headed to China the year before that. So she was already there for almost a year now, I would say, at
Mm-hmm.
this point. And she was teaching English. She was a English major, and she knew somebody who was running a program over there,
Mm-hmm.
and she took a chance. And so she said to me, all these things going on, I know you're trying to search for things, I know you're trying to find this solid job and stuff, but take an interview with my job here in China and see if you like it. Took the interview, and I swear I packed up my life in a month or so, and I took a flight to Beijing, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was there for 10 months teaching English. And I had a visa for 3 months, so they had to send me out every 3 months. So I got to explore Hong
Yeah.
Kong a couple times. I got to explore Seoul, Korea, and other parts of China like Tianjin and Shanghai and Suzhou and Guangzhou. My Chinese is not great, and every second of the day keeps falling apart because I don't keep up with it. But at the time when I was there, I was able to at least get myself around, and people were incredibly nice. And the subway was like, I knew at the back of my hand. I was able to go around Beijing like it was nobody's business. And it was just so much fun. I
That's
loved
really
it.
cool.
There is one part of my China experience
Yeah.
where my worlds collided, and I thought it
Okay.
was really, really cool.
Yeah.
So I go to this one bar that is kind of like an expat bar
Mm-hmm.
in Wudao, and I meet some of the college students there that go to the college next to where my apartment is. So it's BLCU, it's the Beijing Language and Cultural University.
Mm-hmm.
And they have like a little orchestra there. And so somebody came up to me, I guess they just spoke about me playing oboe or something. Like
Mm-hmm.
it blew through the wind of the bar, and somebody
Yeah.
came over to me and said, "So I hear you play oboe." And I looked at them like, "Yeah, I brought my oboe with me to China, and I brought my flute because they're small and easy to bring with me."
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Well, we have an orchestra at BLCU." I'm like, "That's so funny. I live right next door to it." So they said, "Well, we rehearse these nights." So I started going to rehearsals with them, and it was super
That's
fun. I
awesome.
met like they were all Chinese native. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was the only one there that was from America.
That's
Well, no,
awesome.
the clarinetist next to me, I think she also was from America, but she was studying there at the university.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up going to a competition. We went to we went to this Beijing wind ensemble, no, Asian Pacific competition. So there was a school from Japan and
Yeah.
Korea, and or like a group, and there was what, oh my goodness, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. We're playing a piece by him as well. I have to tell you later. But there was
Mm-hmm.
a famous composer there doing the competition. So I'm sitting on stage looking into the audience and like tilted my head, and I'm like, I know that gentleman. I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, I can't believe that's him. And we ended up winning first place, which was pretty cool. So
That
when I
is
look
really
at the
cool.
photo, you just see this like one white guy playing oboe
You're like, how
and
did
a
he
sea
end
of
up
like
there?
native Chinese. But it was like super awesome, and like it was so much fun, and I got to learn more Chinese in there because the rehearsals were all run in Chinese. So I got to
Wow.
learn how to say the instruments. I got really good at my numbers and counting. So
Oh my
it
gosh.
will meld together. So that
Yeah.
was a fun little worlds colliding inside of
No, that is,
inside of
I
China.
mean, yeah, we in music, one of our like largest perks, I feel like, is that we can kind of travel and sort of fit in anywhere doing what we do.
Exactly.
Hmm.
David Maslenka.
That's who I figured you were talking about.
The weirdest
Like,
like
what are you doing
little,
here?
right, exactly. And I'm just like, so this is like real legit. This is pretty cool. And I
Yeah.
just kind of sat around. Nobody else knew who it was. So I'm like, I played his music. This is pretty awesome.
Yeah, yeah. That's really cool. Do you think, I mean, the saying like music is the universal language, did that really speak to you there or? Did you
Oh
feel the
man,
opposite?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, like everything is just kind of connected in that sense because
Mhm.
you can really speak to each other in
Yeah.
that, it's just all waves, all wavelengths, and we're all kind of understanding how it means. This is
Mhm.
pretty cool.
That's awesome. What advice do you have for students, maybe they're in their undergrad or master's thinking, yeah, I'm going to take auditions and then, or I'm going to be a teacher. And I guess the advice of like establishing yourself as more of a portfolio career and, leaning in like the windows that are open, like you said.
Yeah. I think the best thing for people to do is to know that probably ever since they were a kid, they were given all these opportunities, they were doing all these things.
Hmm.
You have a belt around you, a metaphorical belt, and all the things that you do in your life are are things that you learn and you attach them onto that belt. So anytime things come up in your life, you can go to that belt and pull it off and like remind yourself of like, this is how I got through it.
Hmm.
And these are all my tools.
Hmm.
And when you have a degree that just has music, it's not going to do anything for you. It's there to tell you like this is your capability.
Hmm.
So go do something with that. And you may have a degree in music ed, but what did that music ed degree teach you? It taught you about all these ways of psychology on the thoughts of uh, different age groups and how they learn. And then on top of that, you have the musical aspect. And music in itself is closely related to so many other things. You can talk about math, you can talk about physics, you can talk about chemistry and biology and history and the way that they all intertwine. As long as you can create that into like the narrative of what human culture is and everything, you can learn from that and
Hmm.
just apply it to anything else. You may leave and find out that maybe I was actually enjoying this the most because of the math part, and people
Yeah.
go into engineering.
Hmm.
Or maybe people find that the medical field ends up being something that they, just couldn't kind of stay away from. So
Hmm.
they may have all these other amazing aspects of their life that they can still touch into.
Hmm.
And just because their degree says this never means that that has to be what you do in your life. It's
Hmm.
just letting you know, hey, you have the approval to do this and you put all that work into it.
Yeah.
So just go create a life now out of the knowledge you have and what you'll learn.
And don't forget that, you do have more skills than just the words like degree in music, right?
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
think it's funny that all I do all day is oboe. Like it
Mhm.
kind of makes me giggle a little bit from
Yeah.
time to time. Like I wake up in the morning and I practice a little bit. So I have my oboe there. I think about music or I listen to music. Then I go to work and oboe all day long. And then I have rehearsals at night a couple times a week where I go play oboe. So it's just like oboe all the time, which is funny.
Mhm.
But I like that about my life. I
Mhm.
don't need to have too many other separate things to enjoy it. I put oboe away and go hang out with my friends and go do things outside and other things that I enjoy. And now that I have the freedom to be like, I really want to learn this now. And I
Yeah.
want to learn this and I can still continue doing this. And yeah, there's so many things to a single person. Like you don't have to box yourself in.
Yeah. What are some of your goals for either RDG, yourself at RDG, music, anything like that?
Well, I always think about RDG because it's the reason why I'm doing so well
Hmm.
in where I am.
Hmm.
And we are a little family inside of there. We laugh all day and have a great time. And we meet amazing people and we get to help them find stuff. So, like, I just want to keep what RDG is what it is. I want, and to make it better if we can continue to do that.
Yeah.
We have a new location now. We have larger space, so we want to see more people come through. We want to have more events there, and we just want to continue growing our community,
Hmm.
and knowing that we're here if you need us.
Yeah.
So, for myself on a musical aspect, or standpoint, I would say, is like I just want to continue playing and learning because I love learning and I love that every year I feel like I keep getting a little bit better at oboe.
Yeah. Yep. I really enjoyed speaking with Justin, and I think something especially interesting about his life thus far is how the oboe and the world of music he's in has brought him to so many travels, not only in China, but even just the move out to Los Angeles. And because of going to the John Mack Oboe Camp and working for RDG there, that kind of just led to a trajectory that we don't even know where it will take him. As always, thank you for listening, and catch the next episode.